We Were the Lucky Ones. It's inspired by the true story of one Jewish family separated at the start of World War II, and they're determined to survive and reunite. We're going to show a clip before I introduce the actors.
Are things getting worse?
A little, in the last few months.
The Friedmans are leaving for Palestine.
Really?
Oh, come on. They just don't like the competition. There's 40 bakeries in town and business is down.
But business is down for most Jews.
It'll pass. Radom is not Germany. Don't worry so much, okay? Who knows, maybe I'll come give you some competition in Paris soon.
Come. I'd like to see that.
Good night.
He always says he'll come to Paris, and he never comes.
There's a girl.
There's always a girl.
This is a serious one. The only thing I could get out of him was that they met on a chairlift skiing in Zakopane.
Must have been some right.
I'd like to come to Paris. Maybe I'll stow away on your train tomorrow.
But what do you want to do in Paris? Do you have a plan?
You are doomed as an artist if you insist on being so practical.
Easy to say before you have to pay for food and rent.
I have plans.
Such as?
That's unfair.
How?
You take for granted how lucky it is to be sure. Sure about what you love. Sure about what you want to do with your life. If I wait to be sure, I will get stuck. Don't worry about it, Adi.
Don't let me think. Look around for
I
someone.
will figure it out.
Alina. To future adventures. I will be waiting whenever you decide to make the trip.
Please welcome showrunner and exec producer of We Are the Lucky Ones, Eric Lipez, and stars Logan Lerman and Joey King.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Eric, let me start with you. This is obviously based on a true story, a book by Georgia Hunter about her ancestors who were separated during the war. Separated is the key word there. We're talking about different locales. What was it like adapting that story into a limited series?
It wasn't easy, but I would say when I read Georgia's book, I read it in probably 24 hours. It was one of the most incredible stories I had ever read, and I knew it was a true story. And I think what I found so incredible as somebody myself who I felt like I had a pretty good Holocaust education, this was a window to that period of time that I had never really seen before, and through this really intimate lens of this family. But the fact that their storylines take them across 4 continents, 9 years, it was both what was so exciting about getting to adapt it, but also what was absolutely daunting, because I think that breaks so many conventions of what TV typically is, which is you have your standing locations, you go back to the same places, you don't sort of follow that many characters, and so it both felt like the opportunity of a lifetime, but we really had to figure out how to wrangle those storylines and find the cohesion, even though the time that our brilliant cast gets to act together is actually pretty limited, and that's one of the scenes that we get to see them together very early in the series, but then everyone is scattered, and so it was just a balancing act. We had an amazing writer's room, and Georgia's book was the ultimate guide, and we always knew where we were going, which is one of the biggest helps when making a television series. It's sort of when you don't know your destination, that's when you get in trouble, and we knew where we were going, so we just kept that in mind every step of the way.
Logan and Joy, talk about forming that family. So it sounds like you did have an opportunity to at least be together before you were apart.
Yes, we had a good amount of time to rehearse. Joey and I go a good amount of time.
It was like 2
Well, Joey and I go way back.
We do.
But
Wait. How do you go way back?
we met, like, funny enough, in something a similar environment like this, like 11 years ago, on a panel, like a Q&A for something back when.
Wait, Joey's only 24, so that's like when she was
Think,
like,
yeah, think about that.
I was like 14 when we met,
14.
yeah.
holy crap, okay.
Yeah, it was like it was crazy. It was a really long time ago. We were
Okay.
both much younger, but the experience was great though. We had a few weeks of rehearsal, and I had a couple months to prep. But when we were in rehearsal, we were all together as a family. Tommy Kail, who directed the first episode and the last episode, really kind of crafted this beautiful rehearsal environment for us to get close, live together, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We constantly rehearsed, constantly talked about the work, became a family, and it's really testament to his ability to get us, together, and to your ability as well to cast us and see these personalities like working well together. Somehow, it just was magic when we got together.
Joey, do you feel like a kinship to this man?
You know, I feel mostly connected to you guys, except for right now at this table. I'm so lonely over here. Me and all my friends sitting over on this side of the flowers. No, I was really grateful to feel so close to our cast and our crew. And, when you have someone like Erica at the top, someone at the top really sets the tone for how something like this goes. And when you have the kindest and most talented people at the top, that trickles down to everyone feeling at ease and being able to bond and connect in a way that feels natural. We were given the luxury to focus on creating bonds with each other because we were so confident in our leaders, and that's a beautiful feeling. And Logan is like family to me in real life, and so this show, getting to play family with you, even though we didn't share too much on screen time together. There's so much about this show. Every piece of the show, I could go on for a very long time about why this show means so much to me and each moment of why it means so much to me. But all-encompassing, it's just a huge part of my heart.
This is for all of you. Why was it important that the regular cast all be Jewish actors?
It felt just so natural and organic to this series. We were making a Jewish family who was going through this chapter in history, and so it was something we set out to do, and it was. We also always, Tommy and I always talked about that we wanted to find the most incredible talent on screen, but also the most incredible humans off screen, because this is really daunting material, and we knew we really just needed the best people to show up for it, and we also really felt like we wanted a group of people who felt a deep need within themselves to tell this family story. And when we met Joey and Logan, that was so clear. And then when we built the rest of the ensemble, it happened very naturally. And we are really proud of it because it did make for a very special filming experience. Particularly we did get some opportunities to film like a big Passover around the table. And there was just such a very natural Jewish energy around that table. A lot of laughter, a lot of opinions.
Natural Jewish energy. Like such a funny thing to say.
I know.
It's an ephemeral quality. It's there.
Okay. Joey, your character, where's her place emotionally in the family? Who is she to this family?
So Helena is the youngest Quartz sibling, and I think when we meet Helena, she's just a spicy, spunky young girl who is just, figuring out life. I mean, she's a little bit naive, but also very confident. Like she's young, and I think that we fall in love with her spirit before the war, and then she gets thrust into this position of having to grow up so quickly and become this kind of orchestrator of safety for a lot of the members of her family. She is orchestrating, moving one family to this camp and this workshop, factory, and then, her niece to this place. She takes on a lot of stress in the family. And it's really interesting to see her go from such a young woman who's just has so much life ahead of her to becoming this person whose biggest weight of the world is keeping her family alive. yeah, her journey and her arc is really, really moving.
Logan, your character, he's obviously quite worldly. He's the most, would you say, the most sophisticated of the family?
Oh, I don't know about that. He's look. I could say he's much more talented than I am as a person. Adi was a real person. Georgia Hunter, who wrote the novel. I play her grandfather, and he was exceptionally talented. We use his music in the show. He was a composer. Several of his pieces are in the show. I had to learn how to play them. They were very difficult. He's outgoing. He can command a stage, a room. He was just an incredible person overall, and an energy. But I don't know. Everybody in this family is wonderful. Every person. It's weird to talk about them as characters because we played real people. I mean, they're based on real people. So I was amazed by all of them. So I can't really say he was the most. There's a talented family, smart, talented family.
Where did you shoot this?
We filmed primarily in Bucharest, Romania. We were there for about, oh gosh, was it 9?
Forever.
It was a pretty long time. And we filmed there for the bulk of it, and then we were in the south of Spain for about 6 weeks to film a lot of the countries that Adi's character goes to over the course of the series, and as well as some of our Italy locations. We put our cast up into the mountains.
When you started, did you have discussions with the actors about quite literally finding their voice, finding that accent? Was there a chance that maybe you wouldn't do it, or?
I lost a lot of sleep leading up to making this, thinking about that, because it definitely was one of the things we had to solve and figure out. I mean, I think what we loved so much about getting to tell this story was the global nature of it, but that does bring up logistical issues of people in different countries speaking different languages. And so we very early on found this incredible, Tommy is very close with this dialect coach, Deb Hecht, who is just one of the greats. And she had this vision of what she sort of called a Polish inflection, and it was something that sort of would essentially, whenever characters were speaking Polish, it would have that accent, and but be English. And it was a choice we committed to, and then the cast worked with Deb, and they all have the most incredible ears. I mean, they were all flawless.
We worked with each other a lot too. I mean,
guys did.
once we got together, we really, tried to find a middle ground as well. This is a pretty big cast. I mean, Israelis, Brits, Americans. So we really had to try to figure that out.
It was cool. Deb, she talked about, because we were trying to make a family that sounded like each other, and our family consisted of Americans and Brits and Israelis. And I loved hearing Deb talk about this, because she said there was an accent that sort of lived in the middle of all of those accents, and that's what this family sounds like. And so I think the hope is you sort of tune your ear to it in the beginning and then almost forget about it over the course of the series. And that's my experience of listening to you all.
Before I got into the series, I did have a fear of, I knew this was a Holocaust drama. This could be a Holocaust drama. And so I worried about, is there going to be the violence? Is there going to be some just heavy scenes that just going to be gut-wrenching to watch? You don't necessarily see violence in this. I mean, I'm through the first 5 episodes. You're still wearing that white shirt, by the way, that's another thing. Was that by design, that you kept it out?
So what we always said about with this series is to tell this family story very truthfully and to the history of what happened to them. And we thought the gift of this series was to be able to tell a story through their intimate lens. And, there are some really difficult moments and there are some pretty harrowing moments, but I think what we always felt like, I have pretty strong feelings about gratuitous violence, and I think actually sometimes evoking violence without seeing it can be just as scary. And I think what we were, particularly in the early episodes, when the violence isn't happening to the family, but it is starting to escalate around them, and that danger is coming, that you know, your relationship to violence is people don't usually just stop and watch it and the camera lingers on it. It's like, it sort of is happening around you. It's happening as you pass by. And I actually think that is so much more unnerving and truthful than just lingering on it unnecessarily. So that is always what we talked about when filming it. But, you know, I mean, you'll see as the series goes on, what happens to the family is what we show. But the nature of this family story is that they did not also end up in the death camps, and so I think what is also very interesting about this series, and thankfully we have had some incredible series that do show that experience of the concentration camps, but there were a lot of experiences of Jews in Europe during that time, and I think this family's experience might be something that people haven't seen before. And I think it's really important to see this story too, and I hope people will tune in.
You two, did you have fears about potential violence that is happening? Did you have fears about that?
Fears about?
About how heavy this could potentially get, and there would be violent scenes.
Oh yeah, but that was more so for your journey than Audie's.
Yeah, I mean, like Erica said, it was always very clear with the intention from the very beginning that we wanted to imply more than show, because it is more unnerving sometimes. And I think in our show, it does a fabulous job of portraying that disturbing nature of what's going on without just fixating on only that. But there was, there's times too, like in some of the later episodes, you'll see, there's certain things that it's like, we don't want to fixate, we don't want to get too gratuitous, but it's like, what's that line? Like, we need to show X amount to understand the impact of it, and I think that was balanced so beautifully. But in terms of the heaviness emotionally, of course, but I think as actors anyway, the least we can do is feel the heaviness and feel the emotion. We're actors, we're portraying the experience of going through the Holocaust. We have the luxury of not having gone through this. We get to go home after work every night and sleep in a nice bed, so feeling the heaviness of those emotions during those tougher scenes, it's the least we can do, and it's very important. It's tough, but of course, it's so important.
Logan, what was your reaction about this dropping at a time when anti-Semitism is at a rise in this country? What did you think about it?
What I think about it, I mean, when I'm working on a project, I'm not really thinking much about the big picture of how it lands in the time period it's released. Just connecting with the truth of the scenes and the material, and it's crazy. The timing and everything that's going on is really tough to watch. But I hope that this show promotes empathy for all, and it's really about what happens when hate goes unchecked, and about the human suffering in the middle of these conflicts. And I hope that people empathize for people suffering.
Last question. Obviously, this is a heartrending tale. Where did you find the beauty?
I mean, I think what I loved about getting to tell this series is there is so much love and laughter and joy within this family's experience, and I think despite what is happening to them, I think the choice they made every day to live, and I mean, given what they were up against, and when I say live, I mean connect with each other, be there for each other as a family, as siblings, as partners, as parent-child. It just was a very moving thing to read in Georgia's book and in sort of her research, and I think I always feel like this series is, of course, we are portraying the harrowing moments of survival and of what they were up against, but it's so much about the moments in between where they just have a moment to be human beings, and that was, I think, it was one of the biggest pleasures to write, and it was really amazing to watch you guys bring those moments to life.
We were the lucky ones. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Relevance.